Right, okay.
Okay.
Start over again? All right, so I introduced the three governance committee, members that are all here, so that's good. So we have now gone to introducing Drew, CFO, and Margie, who are,
Oh, on the share screen?
community
Okay,
experts. Yes, go ahead, Mary.
Mary Canadian, Acting Chief Operating Officer.
Audrey Cannon, State Senator Luke Kruger's office, but also an island resident.
And then,
Lada Stuck, Associate Counsel.
and coming in is Brian. Brian, you want to introduce yourself to our viewing audience?
Brian Daniels, Communications Director of REAC, I'm here to take a picture.
Okay. Okay, so, we are here, clicking on the agenda is to look at Marcus's take two feedback, okay? And it's all printed out here, for those who haven't read it. And, so we're just gonna go line item by line item, and there's only two things on the agenda. This and whatever else you wanna talk about, okay? So,
Lana, can you resend, if you have access to your email, can you resend the last draft to my inbox so I can have it at the top? Well, thank you.
okay. So, I'll skip the preamble, but, let's see. Once again, I'll say up front, I'm not a lawyer, so take my interpretation of statute with that in mind. The first thing that he referred to is Article 2, Section 8.
I know. No worries.
And Article 2, Section 8 is on,
Looks like page 3.
resignation, right? So the process of resignation is defined by Article 31 of Public Officers Law. I recall from my observation of the committee meeting that you wanted to add clarity about where the resignation letter should be sent. Article 31 says every resignation shall be in writing, addressed to the officer or body to whom it is made. So the issue seems covered to me, but I don't object to clarity of explicitly saying chairperson and secretary. However, I also recall the committee discussing that someone needs to inform the governor's office if there is a vacancy. That issue is not solved. Perhaps it would be incumbent on the chair and or secretary to do so, which is reasonable expectation that might not require a change to the bylaws. Also, I don't know what the last two sentences on warning a board member after missing 3 consecutive meetings are trying to do, or what we expect the government to do about it. I suggest striking both sentences. Okay, I'm bringing that up for discussion. I'm gonna check with Lada and Conley first. What do you think?
I think we discussed it at the last board meeting. I only have 3 sentences here. Is either chairperson or secretary, and Morris does not have objection to this. Maybe she's not.
Chairperson,
I think where the resignation letter should be sent. I think he's asking about an address.
so if you just, so you
I mean,
wanna
there's
put
no,
it,
if you
Like,
email
or how
the
it should be,
chairperson.
yeah, or how it should be addressed, yeah, like more details on that.
so you just wanna add an and secretary to the chairperson and?
It should be, it is and here, to the chairperson.
Mm-hmm.
Person and secretary warns us in writing, board member if missing.
Yeah, and what he's saying is we should maybe be explicit and spell out the next step, which is that the chairperson and or secretary will then let the governor know. Is that what, that's what Morse is, I think he's saying.
Do we want to ask him? I think he's on the call.
Yeah.
Is he on?
Oh, great, Morse, you're on the line?
Morris, are you on?
Okay, let's ask Morris.
Yep, I am. And, you know, I guess I hesitate to participate too much, of course, because I'm not on this committee, but to the extent that the committee has questions that I can be helpful with answering. I guess that's okay. Lotta, if you agree.
This is fine because we only have 4 board members present with you. Megan is a committee member, so it's totally
no quorum.
4. It doesn't constitute quorum of the entire board. It's totally fine with your comments.
Yes, so you are now recognized for the rest of the meeting, so you can participate to your heart's desire.
Okay,
I just-
thank you. Yes. So that was the concern, right? That we're you want to make sure that it gets to the governor. I seem to recall from the last time this committee met and discussed this particular issue, the question came up of as what so you let the chair know, and then what happens? And because it's the governor who is the only entity that sort of matters in this case, so it could just be clarity that it makes its way to the governor's office.
Yeah, we typically receive the appointments from the appointments office or GS designated person for the appointment person. So we will send it, and I recall Megan said she had a reservation regarding putting governor's appointment office, so we did not put it.
Well, I mean, you
I
have,
think the point was so that they have to be notified that there
Yeah, they
is,
will
that
be
somebody hasn't come for the last X number
Yeah.
of meetings, so you might want to start thinking about whether they resigned or not and filling it. So somebody's got to tell the governor's office or the appointments office or
this-
whatever. And the
that's when
secretary sounds fine.
And this, we agree that
Yeah.
the last sentence, secretary shall notify the
sounds
governor
fine.
in those occurrences, meaning the governor's office or
Right.
like in general, we know where to send it.
Yeah. Okay. It also says, though, I don't know what the last 2 sentences on warning a board member, do I have an old copy? Because I don't see 2 sentences about warning a board member.
Just one, the secretary will warn in writing board members after missing 3 consecutive board meetings.
Am I looking at this?
After any
The
board member, I
secretary
think the
will warn in writing board members after.
Oh, board member, oh, okay.
Mhm. After
Okay, I was
missing
looking for
three-
two.
Yep.
members,
Okay. Okay.
But warn them of what? That's the issue I had raised
yes,
before.
that's
The
what we
sentence
think here,
is
about
not-
Okay.
some board members missing 3.
Right, what, I think what we were gonna say, and warn, it sounds probably ominous, and I don't think it means that, but, let the board member know that we'll be notifying the governor's office. And I think this stems from way back when, I forget his name, Ferrara from the child school was on. He missed like 6 months worth of meeting, like he was never there. And the chair, it just sat empty.
it's more
and-
like
and
an alert.
We thought it was, yeah, alert them, just let them know, hey, we're gonna tell the governor's office, they'll be in touch to see if you still wanna be on the board. Because he just didn't show up anymore.
So you want to change that word from warn to alert?
Notify.
Notify's fine. It just seemed unfair to just call the governor's office without letting the board
But-
member.
The statement needs to clarify, notify them of what? It just says notify, or it just
Any
says
board
warn of what?
member,
Notify them that the chair or the secretary will be contacting the governor's office to tell the governor's office about the absences. Because the governor's office doesn't know that this person has not been coming to the meetings unless somebody from here tells them.
What's a diplomatic way to say AWOL?
Yeah.
So should it say that the secretary will notify a board member that, their absences will be,
Reported to the.
Reported to the governor?
by body per their appointment?
Wait, so Megan, you were in and out a little bit, so can you repeat what you said?
here we'll put 2.
I said, the secretary will warn or notify, I don't know which word you want to use there, the board member that their absences, 3 absences, something like that, will be, notice will be given to the governor's office that they've missed X number of, something like that. I just don't know, I think this needs to be crafted better, that's all.
So the secretary shall notify.
Of multiple board member
The
absences?
secretary shall notify governor in the event of any board member missing 3 consecutive board meetings.
without,
Without,
telling,
Yeah.
without communicating
Without
with
communicating.
REAC, basically. I mean, people might miss 3 meetings, but as long as they're in
Yes,
communication, right?
right.
Skipping.
But in this case, it's consecutive, 3 consecutive board meetings.
Technically, section is named resignation, and in the original version, it only spoke about resignation. And I think that's what Morris pointed out, because it aligns with Article 31 of Public Officers Law regarding resignations. But then we decided to add this language,
Right.
which goes beyond resignation, and that skipping the board meetings without a reason or extenuating circumstances will also
It's almost like an
warrant
implied
some
resignation.
attention
Yeah.
notification to the governor and other board members that 3 consecutive meetings were skipped by certain board members.
Yeah, say that in 10 words.
Yes.
That's,
So the
that's
first
a challenge.
sentence, but the 2 other sentences, that's what Morris suggested, just strike these both sentences, but we want them there. So we
Yeah.
just need to come up with a better language. So in the event of any board member skipping 3 consecutive board meetings, the secretary shall promptly notify the governor and other board members of this occurrence. Something,
Okay.
it will be one sentence.
Can we just say we'll notify the governor and the board member?
Yes,
I think we need to say writing after, the secretary will notify the governor and the board members in writing
In writing,
Mhm.
right, right.
after missing 3 consecutive board
absence,
meetings.
yeah.
And that's it.
So you can take out the secretary will
Correct,
warn,
correct.
take
Yeah,
the middle
take out,
sentence
yeah.
out.
Taking out the middle sentence. Okay, so is this what we,
Do you want to clarify it to, say, this is 3 consecutive board meetings without, without.
unexcused, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
right.
I don't know what's unexcused, you
Or,
know? I mean, none of it's excused or unexcused,
Right.
it's just, you know.
Without notice.
Not, right, not
Okay.
reported
Without
or
notice.
without.
Without notice to the
Without
board.
notice.
Not notice. So, Morris, is that good? Morris, are you there?
Mark?
Yeah, I'm here. I mean, it's I'm referring to these are comments. I don't. I guess it's fine. I don't quite know what the governor's office would do with this information that somebody's missed 3 meetings. But I guess I have a better understanding now of the problem that you're trying to solve for, which is if you have somebody who has been appointed to the board and is not really an adequately active participant, you want to make sure that they know. So I see what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I would think the governor's office would call the person and say, hey, we noticed you haven't, like 3 consecutive meetings. Is there an issue? Do you want to stay on the board? Should we,
Yeah.
Are you technically resigning? Or just let us know what the status is so we know whether you want to stay or not.
But honestly,
Yep.
we only encountered it once, I think, with,
Once that I recall.
Yes,
Could have
but-
been, I don't know.
normally our board members are very diligent and all
Active.
the, yes.
We want to
It's
be.
mostly a preventive measures, so it's
Okay, all right, so let's go into the next point, all right?
section 9.
Section 9, remove as a board member from the first sentence, because it doesn't make sense given the rest of the section. Section 9 says communication with the public. Hi, hold on a second. Hi, Governance Committee meeting, would you like to join us?
I would love to.
Have a seat.
Thank you. What's your name? My name is Felicia Ruff. I'm your rear of VP.
Yes.
How are you? So I apologize for being late. My
Schedule is just as tight as everyone else's in here, but I think I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. What is your name again? My name is Felicia Ruff. Are you FF as in? It's just in a name. Okay, great. So, so we are on section
They can
9.
follow.
And
You can have my
Yeah,
copy.
This is a copy of the order,
So I'm gonna read it for everybody's benefit. With the exception of the chairperson, any member of the board of directors appearing as a board member before a governmental body, private body, or otherwise taking a statement in any meeting outside of the corporation or communication with media, whether verbally or in writing, including but not limited to email, facsimile, text message, or otherwise, shall affirmatively state that such member is not speaking on behalf of the board of directors when making such statements unless duly authorized to do so by the board or its chairperson.
I agree with this, striking this, because it doesn't make sense, because you are stating that you are not in your capacity as a board member. So you cannot appear as a board member and then state, I'm not the board member.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see the, what's the suggested edit?
So that's, I'm sorry. Yes, please just striking this as a
As
board
a
member.
board member.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, as a board member, okay.
Now what, you can have
I think the confusion there was because we're kind of different from other boards. You could show up as a resident, not necessarily as a board member, and then say something and have some people think you're a board member and not, and so it just got crazy, but I think you can take it out too, I agree.
Yeah, so, yeah, I actually.
It's redundant, it's redundant, yeah.
Okay. All right, strike it, we're good?
Struck.
Okay. Mark?
I think
Article 3, Section 1. That's on page 4.
Next, okay? Article section 1 is, it's just for any board that I've been on or around for the chair to call board meeting and set the agenda. I believe that entrusting those responsibilities to the chair is fundamentally important for any board to function normally and effectively, and to authorize anything else is simply, in my view, bad governance. Even though I concur that the agenda items would, in normal course, bubble up from committees, I think stating in the bylaws that items requested by committee should be included on the agenda for the next meeting is over prescriptive. For example, if a committee wants to have a major discussion and the chair believes that the board already has a very full agenda, it makes logistical sense to take the committee's issue at the subsequent meeting. Somebody must be able to make that decision, and that person should be the chair. In short, the chair should set the agenda, full stop. So I want to read the next one, it's still section 1. Also in section 1, I appreciate the addition of the very last sentence, which points to the open meetings law with the reference. I don't think we need any of the 4 sentences that were added preceding it.
I actually made some changes and I removed this last sentences, I put them on top, which just start that all meetings of the board shall be consistent with New York Public Office Law, Article 7, and we said it once at the beginning, and we don't repeat it elsewhere in the minutes, in the bylaw. Oh, no, I'm sorry, there's actually this section, all meetings of those should be consistent with the open meetings law. Yes,
Okay. So then the 4 sentences before that.
You know what, I think it doesn't
Are
even
the-
reflect that I crossed it out.
Yeah, I
So then-
think that we discussed that. I
Yeah,
think
I think
it said
we
that
should
is a
take it
catch-all for
Yeah.
everything to just say.
And
follow
was
an
that,
open meetings law.
yeah, was that from either the ABO or the Committee on Open Government? I think,
Yeah, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
I
So
think
the
there was
last sentence,
some
we
language
do
from-
have it, the first sentence,
Mhm.
and we say it again at the end, so I think we should start with this, that meetings should be compliant with open meetings law, and we remove the last paragraph,
So the last 4 sentences,
last sentence.
so here's the reference to the open meetings law, and so I'm going up. There's 1,
It's at the very
there's
beginning.
2. We already struck that.
Mhm.
I think he's referencing that. So this whole paragraph then?
Yes. So, no, not this paragraph. No, the last sentence here
Last
is
sentence is
exactly
open
like the
meeting.
first one.
Uh-huh.
So we
That
need
are
to work out
broadcast
this
or
one.
that use video conferencing.
So we can leave it either at the end of this of this
Okay.
article or at the beginning. I suggest we just start this
Then
one.
Morris referenced the
But this
four
portion,
sentences before being repetitive.
Yeah. So you're saying, in addition to what Morris is saying, you're
Mhm.
saying we should take this out.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna go first to address Morris's point of removing the 4 sentences before this. We can also remove this, to
yeah,
your point.
right.
Wait
Yeah.
a second, hold on a second, what's happening?
Okay, so Morris says, I appreciate the very last sentence. He's talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it out.
Yeah, he said, I appreciate the very last sentence, which points to open meetings law. And with this reference, we don't need the 4 sentences that come right before this, which is basically, those 4 sentences are this whole paragraph.
Right. The only reason why I put this there and copied from the open meetings law, because there was section added regarding disability, and we wanted it to match the open meetings law provision. But if we are saying should be in
Right.
compliance with the entire law,
Right.
it's redundant.
And then if the law changes, we don't have to change the wording here.
Uh,
Already said six.
Right, so,
Yeah, and so to Lotta's point, we already have that last sentence that Morris is referencing is here.
okay, it's now first.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad idea to highlight our, look at the as per, because a lot of people don't think of, accommodations for people with accessibility issues.
But the beginning of the second paragraph, we are saying about that we are conducted in facilities accessible in compliance with applicable federal, state, and local accessibility laws, including but not limited ADA as amended, and New York State public laws, and I added reasonable accommodation policy.
Mhm.
So I think it should
That's
be enough. There's no need to
Yes.
repeat it because
Yes.
it's already in open meetings law, and the first paragraph is basically the same with the second paragraph.
Agreed, it's redundant.
Yeah.
So wait, we're keeping in what? Keeping
So
this?
we're keeping
We're
this,
keeping this?
The first
Yes.
sentence of the second.
the first sentence of the paragraph of this,
Second paragraph.
yeah, of the second paragraph. We can't
Okay.
keep it.
And then taking out the rest.
Correct.
So we're not gonna do broadcast using video conferencing.
It's technically, because Morris said 4 sentences, but we are removing 2 sentences, and 2 first sentences remain. If Morris is okay with it, I don't know.
Maybe he's including what you already
Morris,
crossed out.
Morris, what were you talking about?
Yeah, no, so I think that's fine, Lotta. I guess the point that I was trying to make is that open meetings law sets the rules here, right? We cannot do anything less than open meetings law. And so all we have to do is point to open meetings law and then we're done, right? And if we wanted to do anything that is sort of more than open meetings law, we could, but we're not trying to do anything more here in this language, so we don't need to have it. And then somebody made the point earlier, which is a good one, that open meetings law can change, and if it does, we would change with it automatically. We wouldn't have to go back in and amend our bylaws if it does change. So the easiest way to do it is just to point to open meetings law, and that's that. But if we point to open meetings law twice, to Lotta's point. So if we want to get rid of one of those, certainly that's fine. And then everything else I would remove, but it's not fatal.
So I actually have an issue with this, and then the issue that I have is we have a growing population of people on the island that are losing their parents. And that's one thing that's across the board. I'm losing my parents, and I don't have hearing aids. So I think it's really important because ADA recognizes something that's, consistent with ADA. The guidelines are there, but the guidelines aren't prescriptive. And so I want to make sure that people who are losing their hearing can still be actively involved.
But we cannot legally just take one group of people with disabilities, specifically with hearing loss. and select from other disabled population and put only hearing loss. We do have closed captioning provided. We do have a transcript which is available like in few days. So especially with closed captioning, if it's in real time, there's closed captioning and people can read it. So I don't think it would be correct to just single out one group from disabled population and put it here, only for those with hearing loss.
But can we, I mean, we have people that want to be involved, but they cannot be involved because of their disability. And I'm singling out hearing loss because I know one individually that would like to be involved, but cannot because of their hearing loss.
But we were providing this equipment, if this individual tells us in advance that she's attending or he's attending this meeting, we can provide, and we were providing this hearing device to this individual. She wants to hear this in real time and not to read closed captioning. So if there is a request for reasonable accommodation, that's why I put reasonable accommodation policy, and it's also posted on REAC's website. So if someone wants to participate, we can, to the extent practical, we can, based on this policy, we can provide this special equipment if needed.
I think,
But the fact that we are saying that we should comply, and it includes all types of disabilities, which include hearing loss. If any special equipment is needed and is requested, we shall provide it. That's the extent. But we can, I don't think we should be putting this into the bylaws.
we may not, okay, so if it's not put into the bylaws, I think that my concern is that technology has advanced so much that we really shouldn't be, so hard pressed to provide accommodations, because we are just so used to not providing those accommodations, that like, right now, there should be an availability of having closed captioning at any point, for any reason, for any meeting, so that people who are born, and can communicate better by reading, you know, real-time, whatever, that is available now. And that we don't use it is our fault, that we don't use it. And
But I don't
we
think,
need
I think
to.
Lana is right. I don't think it needs to be in the bylaws. I think we have to start using it because we don't want to single out just hearing loss, because there are people who are disabled, may not be able to come up the steps in here, for instance, and get to the meeting or something. So we just need to look at what the ADA says we have to do and make sure we do it at every meeting.
And also, I mean, this doesn't need to be in the bylaws, but when announcements go out about meetings, just it's accessible and open to all.
Right, so the announcement should say that.
So that anybody, and maybe it already does, I don't know.
And open meetings will already address this, like broadcasting and use of video conference. It says that we shall utilize technology to permit access by members of the public with disabilities consistent with the ADA. And disabilities shall have the meaning defined in section 292 of the executive law. So wherever it's covered by this, it's already there in the open, it's all inclusive.
It's all inclusive, right?
Yeah, I guess
There's no.
Yeah, that's the practice of it is my concern.
Exactly, that's exactly right. I think it's written fine here.
We are saying that we're
Just, yeah.
bound by open meetings law, and
Okay,
so we need to improve our practice then.
all right,
It wouldn't kill us to get better mics for the meeting too.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think I have a hearing problem, but I have a lot of trouble understanding what's going on. I'm in the church, a lot of trouble, and I'm not alone.
No, you're
People are
not.
saying, looking at me like, huh?
I think that's one of the reasons people don't attend.
That's right.
I barely see what's on the screen, to be honest.
Well, yeah, it's always on the screen. There's a
There should be an
discussion.
effort made to
Yeah.
make it more
There's
accessible.
this discussion by the board members, and there's not necessarily anything up on the screen. You can't hear what they're saying. And
Yeah.
that's the whole point of going to the meetings, the open meetings law.
I mean, I just say, don't we all do a lot of meetings on Zoom, and it's not the same issue.
Not-
You
yeah.
can hear and you have captioning and all kinds of things.
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah. That's fine.
What about that first part, though, about,
Yeah, we missed
But
that.
we missed that first part.
The first question that Maurice
The first
put in
question,
Article
right.
3, Section 1, that it's up to the chair of the board to set up the agenda. That was his original, the first question
Right.
in this
that's the first part.
section.
Okay,
Which
so
means we don't necessarily have to put it in the next board meeting, when it's practical.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I'm, again, going by past experiences, we never had a problem. If a committee wanted something to go to the board, it was just put on the board package. And if a board meeting got too crazy, we just had We could have another board meeting if we needed to that much, or it would go into the evening.
So the whole thing about this was put in because for the entire year, there were no
Committee
committees.
meeting, yeah.
Right, and so because there weren't, we had a dysfunctional board
Mhm.
with no committees, or one committee, we had the audit committee going, but that was it, no other committees were
Yeah.
meeting for basically a year, for
Yeah.
all intents and purposes, a year. And so specifically, the issue being addressed here is that 3 board members asked for an additional meeting, but because the chair had the ability to set the agenda, the chair did not set that agenda item that 3 board
Oh.
members wanted to discuss at that board meeting.
That's-
So it was not addressed.
Yeah, that's huge.
So
That's the big one.
that's the reason that this was put in, for that specific occurrence. So Morris, I want you to weigh in on that. What would you suggest? Because this has happened in my seated, my being seated on, the board, that the 3 new board members, now we are down to only 2, but that's okay. We requested an additional meeting, and the focus that we wanted the meeting to have was not included in the agenda because the board chair set the agenda, and our, request for the topic was not permitted because the board chair set the agenda and did not want to discuss what our concerns. How would you address that?
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that we are in the process of returning to normalcy on this board, right? It was, I absolutely concur with your assessment, Lydia, that it was, you know, when I first got onto this board, it was not functioning well at all. And I think we're kind of getting it back now. And I'm less concerned about trying to go back in time and implement a system during a time that I hope was atypical, and would prefer that we think about what kind of a board do we want to be. And you know, the kind of board that I think we all want to be is a functioning board that gets materials ahead of time, that has the ability to deliberate and be prepared to come into a meeting, you know, and have it be thoughtful and productive. And I think to do that, you have to have some structure and order. And so somebody kind of has to be in charge. You know, my expectation and my experience with you know, highly functioning boards suggests that the chair, you know, works with the committee chairs, that the chair will you know, work with the staff to make sure that materials are distributed ahead of time, but sets the agenda, that somebody has to be in charge of setting the agenda. And so, you know, it might be something simple as to say, look, we have a full agenda. I appreciate what you're trying to talk about. Can we do that at the next meeting? But then somebody needs to be able to have the authority to actually make those calls. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to, you know, accomplish by just suggesting that the chair sets the agenda.
I agree, in a normal functioning board, that's perfect. But because I've experienced what I've experienced, I know that contingency planning needs to be, we need a contingency plan in the event that it doesn't happen, and I think it's an appropriate place for the bylaws to have that.
I think the original bylaws already has this language that the meetings of directors may be called by the chairperson or upon request of 3 or more of the directors.
Yeah, but what was that?
It was not on the agenda, right?
No,
If
we
you're
called,
calling the meeting, then it should be on the agenda,
but
but
it was not, because the chair chose not to include our concern for an additional meeting. This is not a regular meeting.
but
that was
it
called.
wasn't addressed at all?
It
in
wasn't
this-
addressed at all.
Okay.
But then it
But I
didn't
think
adhere to
maybe-
the bylaws that you're used to have then? Is that already in the
I
bylaws?
think, you know,
already?
to
What I
Morris's
just
point,
said is already in the bylaws, but,
But then
but
that's not
if,
come with the bylaws.
if it's, meeting is requested by 3 board members, it's understood that it's on the
It's
agenda.
a different problem.
Yes, if they're called 3 board members. So I don't want, if you want to re-emphasize, that it must be put in the agenda, because you're already requesting it.
You're requesting
It is
the
an
meeting,
original.
but do
If
we
you're
have
requesting,
do
if
we
you're
have-
requesting the meeting, you probably have an agenda in mind.
Yeah,
Could we say something, would you feel more comfortable to put something in with a specific agenda items requested or something in there?
It says that over here, any items requested by a committee to be included on the agenda.
no, but it's not
So they'll be
really,
out.
it's three
It's-
board
Yeah,
members.
3 board members, but
Yeah.
it's also saying that you can add, whatever you need to the agenda.
But I think that's what he's
Okay, this is-
suggesting.
It's the 3 board members,
Yeah.
this is committee
Committee.
request.
Yeah, the 3 board members were not on the committee,
Okay.
because they hadn't
Yeah.
seated us on any committee at that point.
And then it also says all matters requested by board members shall be included in the agenda if 3 or more board members request the inclusion of an agenda item.
I think that's what he's suggesting to be
Mhm.
taken out, though.
Yeah.
But
And that's
you
what
don't
I-
want to.
Yeah, the red is what
Okay.
they're proposing that we remove it. The red is, removing the red edit.
So do you understand what I'm saying, Warren?
Well, what, you, I think, I think I do. But I continue to think that this is overly prescriptive. For example, just saying any items requested by a committee to be included on the agenda shall be added for the next scheduled meeting. I mean, like what if there's other more pressing agenda items that the chair believes should be sort of first in line, and says, well, we can get to this, it's not time sensitive, we can get to this next month. That to me seems like it's reasonable, but we would be prohibited under the way these bylaws are written. So I feel like the chair should set the agenda. They can do so, they can do so in consultation with committee chairs, or something along those lines. But ultimately, it should be that one person gets to set the agenda. And I don't even know how it would work if you say that multiple people have to get to set the agenda. Like how would that work in practice?
So how about this suggestion? So it was for a specific instance, and the specific instance was the 3 board members requested an additional meeting. So maybe I could narrow it down for that additional meeting that was requested by the 3 board members, that the item of concern be included in that additional meeting, because there aren't any other agenda items for that board meeting. Because it's an additional board meeting. Would that be okay, Mark?
I mean,
Yeah, for a special additional board meeting. 3 board members requested an additional meeting. We got to the additional meeting. We said why we wanted the additional meeting.
Right.
We got to the additional meeting, and we weren't allowed to discuss the agenda item that we called the additional board meeting for, because the board chair did not allow it.
You feel the board chair should not have the ultimate veto in a sense of
On
three
on
people.
special
And that's for you board members to, I mean, I'm not a voter, but it sounds like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm
If
saying.
3 individual board members say, we need to discuss this,
And you
the
get to
chair
meeting
has
and we're
to
not allowed
accept that we need to
it,
discuss
there's an
it.
issue.
and it is true that
Yeah, I
a chair usually sets the agenda, but you're saying if something needs to be discussed, how do you make sure it gets discussed?
Right.
I mean, I don't want to dismiss the the experiences that folks had on this very board, and those are very valid, and I certainly recognize that. But I just feel like bylaws are permanent, and we're going to be living with them forever. And I guess my fear is that we're chasing a situation, chasing a ghost that's already gone, and we're doing so in permanent bylaws.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important point, because you're right, we're legislating on a one-time bad case scenario. If you like Congress putting in like bylaws that
I'm sorry.
say we should not.
Right, I have to just say, historically, it's not a one-time bad
It's not.
situation. There has been really limited oversight here by the board of RIA often. And I have to just say that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things and it might have been controversial, and it might not have always been properly executed by some of the new board members, but the attempt was to try to get, more involvement and some oversight and some, accountability. And I think that was what the intention was, like, there was a feeling that there was, a faraway board that wasn't maybe paying attention to a lot of what was happening here. So I don't know that it was just this one last year, and when it's on one particular board member that I think people are focusing on, who is no longer a board member. I don't think that's the issue here, Lydia. I don't think that's what you're trying to raise.
No.
And I hope that we don't focus on.
Can we say,
one person.
I get where both of you are coming from, because I agree, they're permanent bylaws, and if this was an anomaly this past year, let's not set it all in stone.
Yeah,
Could we
yeah.
find something that says like, routinely, and the words are wrong now, but the chair routinely sets the agenda. On rare occasions, 3 board members may make an exception and ask specifically to have something put on, something like that, so that, I get where you're coming from. You want something and you want it right that month. You don't want to wait till next month, and if next month's come and we don't have enough agenda items, we don't have a meeting, and then it's 2 months, and before you know it, you never discuss it.
And you don't want to be censored.
Right.
I mean, if
You
you
don't
don't
wanna
want
be
it to be,
censored, right. If you wanna
so we
talk
can
about
never discuss it then.
Right.
If I may add something, so Authority's Budget Office, best practices states that it is who should prepare the meeting agenda. It is recommended that both the chief executive of the authority and the chair of the board of directors
Yeah.
collaboratively prepare the agenda.
Right.
By
That makes
taking
sense.
an active part in the agenda preparation, the chair can ensure that appropriate topics are discussed during board meetings and help create a setting for board members to exercise their fiduciary duties. I don't think we should be taking this part from the chair of the
No,
board.
I don't, Lydia, are you suggesting that that be taken away? I think you're just
No,
saying
I
there
mean,
has to be
I mean,
another.
But
it
that's the
should be
effectiveness.
up to the chair of the board and
Right.
the
How do
head
board
and the
members raise
president and
issues?
the-
How do they raise
Be
issues if the
voted
chair
on
doesn't want it
if the chair doesn't want it.
But
I think Morris said that in a properly functioning board,
Right.
the chair of the board would reach out, to the chairs of the committees,
Right.
Yeah.
If they wanna,
Right.
Just that,
set
I think we probably
any
all.
issues on the agenda. So how do we, put that down in writing?
But
Or
there's
is it
no
just
public
inherent?
authority that will
Yeah.
have this language go into these details. It's understood that the chair of the board works with the chairs of the committees, but the ultimate agenda is prepared and approved by chair of the board and along with executive, chief executive officer.
Yes, that is usually, I think we've all been on functioning boards, so we
Mhm.
truly understand
I
that,
don't
The
think
problem
that-
is when it doesn't function.
which.
Is there
But
any?
I don't think we should be taking this approach with the assumption that we are continue or will be dysfunctioning board. We just need to be a normal board.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, this is legislating for a worst-case scenario, right?
Well,
Right,
Where you
and
take power
getting
from a
to
chair.
all these worst scenarios, I don't think I'm not saying that it didn't happen, it might have happened, but, I don't think we should be, recording this and putting this in.
I think we see what has been happening.
But it's, that's Authority's Budget Office best practices, that's what the Authority Budget
And-
Office
and
says
if we were
to every other
practicing that,
authority.
It would be fine, but there have been
Yeah.
multiple occasions in the past too. Typically, generally, it works fine, but there have been occasions, even in the past when I was there, when board members did want to bring something up and it wasn't put on the agenda. And that's very frustrating if you're a board member and you're supposed to have oversight responsibility and you can't get something
I
on the
mean,
agenda
this
that you
gets
want
to
to
the
discuss.
whole issue, and we don't all agree on this in this room, about elections for resident board
Exactly.
members and accountability and who's here, living here, and it's a residential board, I mean, it's a residential community. And I think, it is maybe a little bit different of eyes and ears on the community. Again, I am not a board member, I would never accept that volunteer position. It's an amazing task to have to do. But this is not because of one person this last year. I
Right.
just really need to state that on the record.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel strongly that we need a contingency plan. I think every organization needs a contingency plan.
I think the
Look at
question is,
what's
does
going on in this
contingency have to be in the
country.
bylaws?
Every organization, especially what's going around politically now. Well, we need a contingency plan, and I don't think it's inappropriate to put in the bylaws a contingency plan.
Is it
So
a
I agree
contingency
with
plan?
Mark, you know, if things are going as normal, right? Everything, business as usual, if that's, is the ideal is happening, that's fantastic, but the ideal does not happen all the time.
And the chair should set the agenda, you agree with that, of course,
Yeah, absolutely.
of course, and the chair is the chair.
Set the agenda, but in the case that the chair does not set the agenda,
You want to be able to overrule the chair.
we
Yeah.
want to be able to,
Have
So
a
can we
voice.
just put a
Three
sentence that says,
people.
on an exception basis,
yeah,
with the, by request of 3 members, an agenda item?
How many
may be-
people are,
What is an exception, what is it an emergency?
well, 3 people who feel something's
I
important.
would, if you're gonna overrule the chair, it's gotta be a majority.
I was gonna say, how
Yeah.
many people are
Yeah,
on the
okay, make it a
board?
majority.
So maybe
On
you
an
have to
exception
be
basis,
4.
Majority
people.
may.
It would require majority of the board approve the agenda before the actual
No,
board
no.
meeting.
I mean,
I think-
because we're talking about a, you know, a atypical situation where
That's right.
Right.
a chair is being obstructionist, right? That's what we're talking about. And being able to overrule that chair and get something on the agenda. So if that's the case, if we're really that bad, if a scenario is that bad, that dire, then a majority of the board should not have a problem saying, yeah, we want something on the agenda.
Yeah, sure.
Otherwise, it's somebody else's, like, you know, pet passion that maybe shouldn't be on the agenda.
That's correct. It can't just be somebody
Yeah.
saying, we need to have this, and
Right.
I'm gonna
Cannot be
storm
one.
out if you don't.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but the thing is, if 3 people, if 3 board members have requested an additional meeting, and we're sitting for the additional meeting, purportedly thinking that they're going to be discussing what's on their minds, and then they walk into that additional meeting and they're not able to, and the board members, if they don't get the votes, then everybody just went there for nothing. So basically what you're saying is that 3 or more people does not qualify for the topic of conversation to come up in a board meeting. What you really need is you need the majority of the board.
No, what we're saying is, the chair will set the agenda, but the chair should be taking direction from any of us
Correct.
on the board. One person should be able to tell the chair, hey, chair, can you please put this on the next agenda? And the chair will say, yeah, sure, no problem. What we're talking about is different. What we're talking about is a situation where a chair doesn't want to put something on an agenda.
Right.
In that case, you need to override the chair.
Which should be very rare. I
It
mean,
should
of
be
course-
very rare.
Right,
Of
that's
course,
what
no
I'm saying,
one's
on an
saying that we should
exception
be
basis.
storming the
It should-
Bastille and
Right.
starting revolutions here.
Right,
Right.
Right.
But history, I mean, look, there's been a history here of directors and presidents, and this is not a recent development. There have been people leaving in the, right, Margie, in the throes of midnight here. This is not a one-time deal. So,
It's an unusual board.
yeah, so I think that,
Did we mention we're not getting paid for this?
that's what I mean. You guys are amazing. I mean, and by the way, it's very difficult to find people to serve,
I know.
so.
Can I propose a potential solution for consideration by the committee?
Mark,
Please
absolutely,
do.
please.
So what if it were just to say any items requested by a committee should be adequately considered by the board?
Yeah.
And so you're not really violating the flexibility that a chair should have. You're making sure that at some point they're adequately considered.
Yeah, but
So you would-
this is not by committee. You see, it's actually the 3, okay, so once again, we're in this dysfunctional, bringing it back to our dysfunctional board prior to when you came, that we were not on committees and with the 3 new board members.
Oh my goodness, that was really.
Yeah, so then we're talking last year. So, that's what I'm saying. So in the event that something like that happens again, and God forbid that it does, but it might, because look what happened, right? So,
So we'll come back and amend the bylaws.
who knows? I don't know. So we could say, what was it, any agenda item brought up by committee shall be,
Yeah.
but also, if we don't have committees, what do we do if we don't have committees? Like we didn't, for
Well, didn't you say something about committees when you reviewed the bylaws? I thought you added something about everybody has to be in a
Everybody,
committee.
yeah, committee
section
within
for
X
committees.
number
I
of
think we
months.
added
Yeah,
something
we'll
because
definitely
of
have
that, your
committees.
experience.
Okay.
And, I mean, and I leave it to Morris and everyone, isn't it often that when you have an agenda, every committee reports as part of that agenda? Isn't
Yes,
that
correct.
right?
At the board
Mhm,
meeting.
yeah.
So that
At the
once you
board
have
meeting,
yes.
committees that are
Yes,
functioning,
that is correct.
and everyone has
That's
to be
right.
on a committee,
That's right.
then every committee will have to
Will have
be
to-
allowed to
Right, there's a
report.
committee report at every
Which will mean
meeting.
that you can't be censored if a committee has a report, even if people may not all agree, like even on these bylaws, you know?
So if it passes, if everybody's agreeable with having board members being appointed to committees by a certain amount of time after they're seated.
I thought we added something about.
Yeah, it was,
Yes,
it
it
wasn't
is.
here, so yeah, you're right, you're right.
Yeah, so then there'll definitely be committees, and at the committee report, anybody who wants to bring something up can bring it up.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so,
Yay.
look at the strike language and make sure we're okay with that.
Mhm.
If that's, I don't know, Morris, do you have the screen in front of you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that's certainly better because it gives the chair more flexibility. So yeah, thank you for considering that.
Okay.
The last line of this paragraph. Additionally, any agenda item requested by board members during a meeting shall be presented for a vote in the following scheduled meeting. I think what you're trying to do there, that's an addition. I think what you're trying to do is to say that if somebody brings up something that's not on the agenda, you know, and the chair would say, that's not on the agenda, we're not going to talk about it at this meeting, it's not on the agenda, you're saying they would automatically show up on the next agenda. And I think the challenge with that is now we're held captive by any one member, right? That we have to, like, at that point you have no agenda, right?
True.
So I would just strike that. That's my recommendation.
Wait a second, but you're saying any agenda item requested by the board member, but would that be like new business? Could that be potentially new business? Do we not necessarily have business during any, board
We do,
meeting?
we do, we have new business.
So we have new business,
Yep, you can talk about new business, and then anything that's going to talk about that's going to be talked about at a committee, right? If it gets passed out of committee, it will come before the board, right? Based on what we just talked about, you know. But it seems like being able to say that anytime anybody wants to talk about anything, all they got to do is just say it at one meeting, and it's automatically on the agenda at the next meeting. That to me seems like we're being held hostage by any one member with an agenda. Right. So I think that we should have, yeah.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Especially for a vote. Sometimes it might not be ready for a vote, it might be for
Right.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, that's a good point.
Okay, do we want to modify this or in any way, or just strike it?
Just strike it, I think.
Yeah, strike it.
Just stricken.
Because the previous sentence already said it will be brought before the board.
Is it still 3 or more board members, or is it majority?
Yeah, let's shave, yeah, good call out.
3?
Majority, right?
No, 3 board members.
Such a shame, it was so easy to just call and say, can we add this to the agenda, it got put on, life was easy.
Yeah, I mean, that's how,
Hopefully.
yeah, that's how it should work.
Hopefully that was how it functions, but these are safeguards, I guess.
Yeah,
so it's basically what we're saying is that in the event of dysfunctional obstructive school chair, in the event of, and we're praying that it will not happen again, that the majority board may request an inclusion of an agenda item.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's your, in case of emergency, break glass provision.
Okay. Next one? Oh, Martha, is that okay with you?
Yes, thank you for hearing me out on that one. Much appreciated.
All right, next. So we're on to section 2, similar to the above.
Section 2.
We just did section 2?
Article 3, section 2, zoning.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're on section 2, right? Similar to the above comment, we should just point to the open meetings law and leave it at that. For example, why this is important, the revision to the bylaws requires 72-hour notice, while under section 104 of the open meetings law, the 72-hour rule only applies to meetings that are scheduled at least 1 week prior. If REAC has to call an emergency meeting due to a disaster, open meetings law allows for it. The proposed revision to the bylaws would take that ability away. I suggest we simply refer to open meetings. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
Okay, so, section 2 says, public notice of the time, place, and purpose of any meeting of the director shall be delivered to each director by secretary, if personally or by electronic mail at least 1 week prior thereto, and shall be given or electronically transmitted to the news media, and shall be conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations at least 72 hours before such meeting. All right, so you want to take that out and say as per the open meeting law?
Technically, yes, that's what open meetings are required. Because
So-
if it's regular scheduled board meeting, it's one requirement. If it's special board meeting or emergency board meeting, it's as practicable or as reasonable. If you want to spell out 72, we can leave it, but it only concerns it only applies to the regularly scheduled board meeting. But if you make a reference to the open meetings law, we will cover all the
Right.
possible situations.
So then,
Regularly scheduled board meeting, or special board meetings, or emergency board meetings, and the timing will be different on all the.
okay, so we're going to take out at least, from at least 72 hours before such meeting, all the way to in compliance with section 104 of the open meetings law?
Yep.
What do you think?
Hmm?
Are we, written notice of all directors' meetings shall be delivered to the elected public officials who represent Roosevelt Island as representatives of the board of directors? You want to put that below? Keep that sentence or not? I like the sentence. Is it prescribed in the open meeting law that we have to notify public officers?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Media, public
Media,
officials,
public
elected
officials, right.
officials,
So
yes.
then we can take it out.
Yep. Mhm.
If it's redundant, that's fine. Is that all right?
Mhm.
So we're taking out from at least to in compliance.
Or pursuant, or compliant.
Does that make sense, Tony?
At least.
From at least to in compliance, all the way down to the strike. You see where it says
Oh,
at the bottom?
oh, okay, all right. Got it. That's a lot.
Up to compliance.
And that's it.
Okay.
Everybody take a look before it gets struck. Make sure everybody's in agreement.
I think we are.
Morris, is that okay with you?
Yep, this is us budget folks appreciate the efficiency, so it's good.
Megan, is this okay with you?
Yes, in principle, but I think there's, if personally or by should be included, just to make sure it grammatically is right.
Wait, what did you say? Say that again.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I got it. I thought electronic mail was I got it. We're good. Yeah, continue.
Yeah,
No-
it
no
says
problem.
it personally or by.
I'm so sorry, we need to reference section 104, the open meeting law, because it's a public notice provision, but we need to leave written notices shall be delivered to the elected public officials who represent, we need to fix this sentence.
Okay, so,
Agreed.
all right, so don't strike the whole thing, just
Correct.
Move it then.
here, right?
Move
Yeah.
written notice of director shall be delivered.
Up to meeting, yes, that's right.
Okay, strike.
Yeah. And
And
then,
then take written notice of directors' meetings, that whole line.
That's all
is-
striked out already, and it goes to the bottom then.
No, no, no,
No,
no.
no.
No, what I'm
Because it
saying
is-
is that electronic mail in compliance should be one sentence. So you should move that in compliance back up to the electronic mail, and then keep the written notice of director meeting shall be delivered to the, elected public officials who represent Roosevelt Island as representatives of the board of directors.
The very first sentence should say that we should comply with section 104 of open meetings law in terms of distribution, and then we need to state that the notices shall be also delivered to the elected public officials who represent Roosevelt Island.
Yeah, that's what it,
That's it.
does
Perfect.
that make sense?
say that one more time, I didn't follow
So
you.
you're taking in compliance with section 104 of the open meeting law.
All right, so we're gonna take
And you're
this
gonna
out.
move it up
Right.
to, after electronic. You're gonna move it.
Electronic
You're not
mail.
deleting it, you're moving it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
after
so here, we're talking about here, okay,
Yes.
does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I can get this to work. There we go,
Can't paste it.
yeah, there we go. Okay, so
There you go.
that makes sense.
And then written notice of, yeah.
Yep.
And that's it?
Yeah.
Done. Morris, you okay with that?
I think you have to have a period after directors,
Mhm.
and a comma.
Morris and Megan, take a look.
Yep. Great.
I'm fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. Next one,
Section 6.
section 6, revision says recorded or attached to the minutes and attached to a journal of the proceedings of a corporation. I don't know what journal reference is and what would any sense that would be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We keep
I thought we
saying
struck that out, we
it's
kept saying
redundant,
journal.
It's old language, we don't have a journal.
Right, we don't have a
for
journal,
proceedings
right,
Of the corporation. We
This is
keep
a reference
it-
to an older day?
right,
Yes.
so.
Okay,
Just take it out then?
And we should say, attached to the minutes, that's it. That's what,
So, it's
to the extent that-
resolution in writing, is that it? That's,
Yes,
No,
or
just take out,
resolutions proposed by the
and
members
attach
shall
to a
be
journal.
recorded.
Should be recorded
Mhm.
and/or attached? Or just-
Attached to the minutes. What is it proposed by the members?
It's
All resolutions.
recorded or attached to minutes and attached to journal, blah, blah. He doesn't know what the journal reference is and would end the sentence after
Yeah.
minutes, so take it out.
I have a question here, because there's distinction between the resolutions, because we're preparing for the board meeting, and here there's like, proposed by the members. That's a separate issue. We have the resolutions that were
Right.
already part of the agenda, and these are kind of new resolutions proposed by the board members at the meeting. That's a mixture of, well, all resolutions should be in writing for open meetings law, but here we're not only talking about all the resolutions, they should be approved by the board, they all should be in writing, but here, there's another thought here, which merged the original sentence. The resolution proposed by the members
Impromptu
should
thing,
be
yeah.
also, right, for
Yeah.
something that just happened at the meeting.
Yeah. I think that stemmed from, like, a resolution comes up for discussion. And as it's being discussed, other things come out, and we say, oh, you know, you should also do this, or whatever. We didn't wait till the following month to do it. We said, Lada, could you get the right wording for this? We're gonna agree in principle, this is what ought to happen. So we're kind of amending the resolution, or maybe coming up with a second, based on the discussion we were having about that original resolution. So it wasn't like an impromptu thing, I wanna talk about this, and can we have a resolution? It's something that developed out of a discussion at the board meeting.
Right.
And it doesn't seem to make sense to have to wait another month for something like that, to have it all down in writing.
Yeah.
Because we've done that in the past, right? Right, a lot of,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
have.
have.
But I wouldn't put this, I would go back to original language, I would say all proposed resolutions, because all of the resolutions are proposed. Just what resolution says when we present them to the board, proposed
Mhm.
resolution.
No,
So
but then it says
but-
proposed by members.
We should remove proposed by members,
Okay.
which include all proposed resolutions, whether they are ready for, prepared by staff before the board meeting, or proposed by the members during the meeting, it doesn't matter. All proposed resolutions, whether it comes from
Okay.
staff, prepared by staff, or
Okay.
introduced by the members, they should be in writing or recorded. Technically, all of them should be then approved and attached to the minutes. And that's where Morris wanted to stop. After minutes, he suggested cross
Right.
out everything else.
But I see Morris's point, you don't want to just bring up a separate topic and nobody's got the background, you haven't read the articles, I get that. But I want to be sure we can still do something that comes up out of a discussion of a particular resolution like we've done in the past.
Okay, so take a look and make sure we're in agreement on this before we move to the next one.
The original proposed, are we taking?
No, we need to.
We need proposed.
The word proposed, so it could be proposed
So it's not
in
proposed.
preparation for the board meeting
Mhm.
and posted on the website, or there could be some resolutions
What
proposed by the board members during the
Okay.
meeting.
Okay. So, and it'll still be okay then for you to change the wording like after?
Yeah, we can work on the wording, but it should be something in
How
writing.
about
with
that?
Okay,
All proposed
that's where we got the
resolutions
agreement in
shall
principle
be-
stuff before that we.
Mhm.
Shall be recorded and/or attached to the minutes.
It's actually not attached to the minutes, it's inside of the minutes.
in the
of
minutes, it's within the-
It's not
yeah.
kind of attached,
And-
included.
Included in the minutes.
I don't think it's in it, the word attached is correct, it's
Right.
included in the minutes.
Should be included
And
in
they
the
are
minutes.
always included in the minutes.
Okay,
So if some board member proposes something new, he would also state something, we will record it in the minutes, and then we can work on the better language.
on the better language, okay, and that's okay to do that. All right, then that was my only concern.
So, and/or, take the or out and include it in the minutes. It's not an option. Okay. And then period, and then the rest, leave, proceedings, corporations, the necessary, members of the local, yeah, consent. Do you want to take it out altogether? The rest of the paragraph? Is that
But
what
I
you're
think
saying?
Margie had a question on the last sentence about the impromptu question or matter that might come up
Yeah,
during the discussion.
during the discussion. Can we either modify a resolution or put an additional resolution because of something that came out of the discussion
Yeah, we
on the
can,
resolution? We can
Right.
still do that?
I think we did it.
Yeah, I'm not,
Mhm. Yeah,
we've
we've
done it in the past, yeah.
Correct.
I'm not suggesting we come up with a whole new topic. I'm just saying if something comes out of that discussion, does this still allow us to say, okay, draft up a resolution that says those specific things?
I think Morris had an objection to that. Morris, am I right? Did you have an objection to that?
Yeah, so if there's an agenda item that's being discussed, certainly you can change it, you can talk about it, you can bring up an addendum to it, right? You have a lot of flexibility to do what the board would need to do under the regular course of business. But this idea of impromptu concepts is tricky. If you're going to bring up something that's just impromptu before the board, then that sort of implies by its very definition that this is something that does not have staff input. It was not in the materials that board members received ahead of time. We haven't had the time to think about it. It's just sort of thrown at us. And I would suggest that that's just not great governance. And so if there's something that is, added to the agenda, we're able to sort of consider it and deliberate and, have a normal board operations. And so just the concept of impromptu actions doesn't mean that we cannot, do things that are in the normal course of an agenda item, but it does mean that we're maintaining order. I would eliminate that concept of impromptu.
So, but I understand the concern that Margie has. So also, what can happen is we can have an emergency board meeting. So you're saying that if we are having like an impromptu, something comes up and we really need to address something, we cannot do it in the board meeting that's scheduled. We have to schedule an additional board meeting to talk about it? If it's on an emergency basis?
I don't think that's what you're saying, right? You're talking
No.
about,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not, that's not what I'm saying, but I think she's asking Morris if that's what he's saying.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, Marge. And so in the event that there is something that comes up on an emergency basis that needs to be addressed in the board meeting, we cannot have an impromptu resolution?
If you're gonna have an emergency board meeting, it's gonna be on a specific agenda item, you're gonna be able to do whatever you need to do.
No,
You know,
I'm
I-
saying if it comes up during the normal course of a regular board meeting. So then what you're saying is we can't do an impromptu question unless we schedule an emergency board meeting.
We'll put it in.
No, and you know, you can have new business. There's ways to, you know, there's ways to, there's all kinds of ways within open meetings law to address emergency situations. I think what I'm suggesting though is that we should have some semblance of discipline, right? Where what we're going to talk about are the items on the agenda. And, you know, we're going to stick to that. And those items are going to have the input of the staff and they're going to be in the materials and the public can see these resolutions ahead of time. And they can voice their concerns at Speak Up if they need to. And the alternative to that is just, you know, we're going to talk about anything, right? Anything anybody wants to talk about. And that doesn't seem like that's good governance. And that's what's sort of implied by the word impromptu.
Okay, I guess I had a different sense of the word impromptu, but.
Yeah, I think, like, sometimes in the public session, before the meeting starts, somebody will bring up an issue, and the board is sitting right there, and they can solve it right then. Why not?
And hopefully we'll have the staff there to be able to weigh in on whether or not that's
If need
something
be.
we could.
Yeah, if it's something the staff needs to weigh in on.
I think that the idea of having the agenda and putting materials in writing for the public, not only for the board members, for the public, to know what is going to happen. So everyone, the board members, have informed, like, make informed decisions and familiarize themselves with the materials. I think to the extent possible, we should avoid this impromptu items unless there is real emergency. The idea of the board meeting and the public, they need to know what is going to be happening at this meeting, what should be discussed, and they need to have the opportunity, and the board members as well, to read and prepare for the materials. So that should be exception of this impromptu resolution. Technically, we should be prepared for the board meeting, for everyone to be ready to discuss.
So an example that I have of what you just said was that, I think Vicky came up saying that the pickleball courts were open, and that we're closed, and we would like them to be open again, and it's not too cold and whatever, and Shelton was able to say, okay, done. I'll open them.
Yeah, but it does not require
But
board
that
action.
doesn't-
It's
it
just
doesn't-
executive.
yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't- So if we can do something, and he can, or whoever can fix it, it may not require board action. That's
Straight,
what
that's a board action.
yeah, that should be a board
Right,
action,
that
something
shouldn't be a
like
board
that.
action.
yeah, so that's something that might may be covered in that, and might be something that, you know, the staff can take care of.
I'm okay with the way these guys explained it before. If something comes out of a discussion and Lada's got to go back and rework some of the wording based on the resolution, I'm fine with that.
This idea that the board members should have the ability to review the materials, to have informed decisions. What informed decisions they might have if there's just something that transpires? One board member probably has this knowledge, but other board members don't have this knowledge, and they are required to vote immediately on that without even opportunity to review the supporting materials or something. They need time to write it, and I think it's irresponsible for the board to vote on something immediately that was just presented to them just now. It definitely can be discussed as a board meeting, but to the extent that we can avoid, I'm sorry, I just
No, good.
But the not
No, I
board members are
think,
from-
I think you guys are going down the right path of let's do it along the normal course of business, and we keep jumping up with, hey, this is what happened in the past, and it's difficult, yeah.
A well-informed decision, independent decision, even if one board member thinks it's correct, but you need to develop your own understanding of any issue
Yeah.
in question and have time to review the materials
And
and
that's
not immediately
absolutely
rush
the right way to
and
do it.
vote.
I myself personally have gotten materials after I sat down at the board meeting. You know, here you go, we're gonna vote on this tonight.
Yeah, that's not the.
Not the case anymore.
That's right.
Sounds like, but that was the case
To submit materials
many times
to the
before.
board and post them to the public, so everyone is on the same page and everyone can have, the board members have informed decisions, the public knows what is going to happen at the meeting, and if they have questions, get ready.
So you're in favor of striking this last sentence on here?
I am personally in favor of.
Netting it out.
Yeah.
I don't like the express, and we have scheduled board meetings, and we need to actually respect the schedule, and the board days are coming soon, in December, and we'll distribute ahead of time, so everyone can agree on the timing and schedule, but it should be planned. It's only the exception, only for special, emergency board meetings that require immediate action, and that's an exception to regular course of business.
Okay, everybody take a look.
Yes.
Everybody look. Make sure you agree with that. Megan and, Morris, are you okay? Section
This is
6.
great. Yes, thank you very much.
I'm okay.
Megan, you good? Okay, everybody here?
Yes, I'm good.
Agreement? Everybody here in agreement?
Looks good.
Okay, great. All right, next. Section 7, I see the section on approval of resolutions without meetings is removed. Do we need to keep it for emergency situations? Manner of voting on all questions at a meeting shall be by roll call, and the yeas and nays shall be entered into minutes of such meetings, except votes deemed appropriate to be done in executive session as described by the open meeting law. A question or matter may be approved by roll call or unanimous consent. And so the question is,
Not a roll call.
Yeah, I think
Not a roll
it's
call.
the section
Approved by
under,
roll-
for
roll
section
call is
7,
different
approval of
thing.
resolution without meeting.
what?
There's the paragraph under that, the section 7, approval of resolutions without meeting. I think that's what Morris is referring to.
I think we removed this section.
Oh.
Yeah, he's asking, do we need to
No
keep it for
resolution.
emergency?
Yeah, we struck that, yeah. Do we need to keep it? Oh, I see. He wants to, yeah.
You can't approve any resolutions without a meeting.
Yeah, it's against the law, right?
But it is against the law.
Is it against the law?
Approval of resolutions.
I thought, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I thought that open meetings law allows for this, and under the normal course of business, we would not avail ourselves of this, but in an emergency situation where we needed to take board action on a resolution, and couldn't call a meeting logistically, then within open meetings law, I guess the question I had is whether you wanted to keep this flexibility, even if you never intend to have to use it, God willing.
No, the
Yeah.
open meetings law does not allow for that. It doesn't distinguish emergency situations, it just says that the meeting should be held in public with a notice. Even if it's executive session, the notice should be there, opening and ending is still open for public, and they should be, we cannot approve resolutions without a meeting.
Yeah.
This is how the board conducts its business, only in public,
Yeah.
or in executive.
Yeah, even during
I guess-
emergencies meetings, fall,
Mhm.
yeah.
I guess I'm fine with, I guess maybe this is fine to remove it because we're pointing to open meetings law elsewhere. And so whatever the law is there is fine. And whatever we can do within that law is great. So that's, I retract this one. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
all right, Article 4, Section 1.
Oh, sorry.
Appointment.
Officers, oh, here we
Okay, so
go.
you vote, the board should not be describing the shape of the organizational chart, the CEO, or making hiring decisions. How the CEO decides to structure the org chart It's up to them, and the board should not be telling the CEO who their VPs need to be. To do so, to be overly involved in the operational decisions, which is not a board responsibility. The flexibility to manage the organization as they see fit will likely be very important to the next CEO whenever such time comes. And whoever it may be, if the board removes flexibility from the CEO, it will almost assuredly shrink our CEO candidate pool. I can't imagine any good candidate wanting to work at a place where they cannot choose their own VPs or make basic organizational and staffing decisions. The board will need to trust the next CEO to give them the keys to do the job that they're hired to do.
Okay, I have two questions there. First one, are you saying the board should not specify what positions there ought to be? Or are you saying the board should not be approving the people who are given those positions?
I think he's just saying the latter, right?
So, because I look at Battery Park City and they say you should have a treasurer and a CFO and all that.
Yeah,
So when you're talking about the shape of the organizational chart, you're really talking about the people that are on it as opposed to the actual structure of the chart.
Okay, so Morris,
Right.
answer the question.
Right, Boris?
because
Morris?
Conway answered the question for you.
I had the Battery Park.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a sort of, from my perspective, it's a general comment, that the board needs to sort of be careful here, right? Because, we are not entrusted with the responsibility of day-to-day operations of REOC, right? We hire a CEO to do that. And the CEO in turn has, vice president level people. It's important that we have the right CEO. Of course, this is a difficult time to be saying that. But once we have a CEO, we kind of need to trust them, right? And it would be very hard, I think, to attract a CEO if we're going to say that that whoever is the vice president and the internal controls officer shall only be done by a majority vote of the board, right? Because then you're hiring a CEO, but saying you don't get to choose who your vice presidents are, and that's a really tough spot for a CEO to come into. And I would suggest that that would be the REOC board getting too far into the day-to-day management of the operations.
Okay, so I have a comment on that. My experience that Chambers appointed a lot of these people in the past. It wasn't the CEO that appointed these people, it was Chambers that appointed it. So we've had a whole bunch of different CEOs who have come in, and all at once we have all these different officers that have been appointed by Chambers outside. And so we're actually trying to say, as the board, we want to be able to hire and fire these people.
And I understand Morris's point, because if I were a CEO, I would want my own people in there too, and I would want the board to hold me responsible if I'm not hiring good people or they're not doing the job, then I'm not doing my job. Problem is, we never had control. Yes, technically we approved the hiring, we never had control of the firing. So if I'm a CEO and I can't fire, and the board can't fire me, I can do whatever I want to do, and the board has absolutely no say in it. And Albany has also gone past the CEO and fired people underneath. Mm-hmm. And once that happened, the board lost all control over overseeing the organization.
And I'm sorry, I had to take a phone call, so I had to step out. So I'm sure you shared the section of the Battery Park, where it's not as detailed as this, but it certainly says the board, the consultation with the board about general counsel, chief operating officer, treasurer, chief financial officer.
Right.
I mean,
usually
you can have an interview committee. I mean, that's not an unusual thing.
Right.
I don't think you're saying you must hire, but that the board might be a part of the interview committee. I mean, again, this is a public benefit corporate, and as my boss says, this is a government here.
Right.
So it's not like a cabinet position that way.
I mean,
There are functional roles that have to be done here.
Morris, question for you is in your view, the offending language, the sentence that begins with the appointment of the president, the 3 vice presidents, and the comptroller shall be done by majority vote of the board? Is that what you want to remove from here?
I would remove that, yes.
Yeah,
no, I don't agree with that.
this highlighted.
I do not agree with that. And the reason why I don't agree with that is because, we need to have veto power. We absolutely need to have if the CEO is hiring these people, come before us and say, okay, these people are qualified, and if we have a normally functioning board, we will see the
worthiness of the
the worthiness
potential
of these
candidates.
people. And then we'll vote accordingly.
This is
In the
not-
past, we've interviewed.
And again, I mean, Battery Park City,
Battery
where
Park City
everyone
does it.
admires, it's
Right.
in consultation with the board.
In
I don't
consultation.
think the board would necessarily have, you can't say you must hire this person, but it's a consultation. It seems very appropriate when we're talking about positions like this.
I think
Yeah,
it's critical that we have that we're the only people that have the ability to remove the CEO. If we're if we're letting him have all that responsibility, he or she have all that responsibility, then we have to have the authority
Yeah, I mean,
to remove him if
this
he's not
wording
doing
might
his
be
job.
very detailed and very specific, but are you comfortable with consultation, Lydia?
I'm fine with consultations, it should be shall.
I mean, you guys know
Yeah, I
better
I
than
think shall has to stay there, shall be in consultation to, it has to make sure that the majority of the board think that the person is qualified.
I would think that's good for the CEO too, to have everyone's buy-in.
You see what it's saying, Mark? If
It's not a
the board
confrontational
is
thing.
not comfortable with the candidate, then the board should not be approving. And if it needs
Yes.
to be sold, it needs to be sold, right? The
So,
board needs to.
so a consultation seems quite reasonable. I think you're right that would happen, should happen in the normal course, right? I think I object to saying shall only be done by a majority vote of the board, which is a different threshold, right? So the CEO should come to the board. They should say, this is the person I want to hire. I'd like you to meet them. This is their resume, and the board's going to say, great, ask questions, whatever they need to do. But ultimately, that consultation should not come with the threshold of like tacit voted approval.
It might wind up that way though.
Isn't that the way Congress does it? Don't you have
I
to
mean,
go before the Senate and get a majority?
Well, I mean, no, but for most corporations, we, as a board of directors, pick any corporation in America, like, they'll hire the CEO, usually also a CFO. That's typically where a board of directors stops in terms of officers. They can hire a COO, but they certainly wouldn't hire like a general counsel, because that's something that the CEOs are gonna pick their own general counsels, they're gonna pick their own comptrollers, they're gonna pick their own, officers, to getting to Morris's point. And the first point I would make. Second point is, there's a limitation of liability reason why we don't want to be overly involved in choosing who is hired in these roles.
Sorry, can you something? In our original bylaws, we just deviated from the language of the appointment. The board typically appoints officers of the corporation,
Sure.
which is
Well, I think
chief
that's-
financial, chief operating, chief
That's
executive, chief operating, chief fiscal officer, secretary, general counsel,
Yeah, sure,
in our case, and the treasurer, which in our case is both chief financial, and that's it. And all
I
other
think that's
powers
right.
belong, and the board appointed these officers by resolution, and the board may fire them as well. And this is what
The problem
removal
is-
of officers by director.
The board may fire them, but people in Albany may fire them also, and that's the part that we've
Yeah,
got to
that-
stop.
Yeah, but that's what.
That's the big deal.
if
That's where the
officer-
maid of shall has to
If
be.
the officer elected to appoint by the board, then they may also be yes, may be removed by the board. I understand
They
what you're saying.
shall also be approved by the board.
If you wanna remove-
Yeah, big,
Not
big difference.
implemented.
But
Right.
everything else is the powers, we
Right.
cannot take powers from president of the corporation or chief, chief, executive officer. He has the powers to appoint all other members who will be employees but not officers. Here, we only talk about senior rank.
Yeah, well, that's, I think everyone agrees, it's just the senior management,
So,
right?
that's why I also agree with Morris that says that we, shall not have any vice president, all other appointments shall be made without, okay. Anyway, this details, we're just taking powers from, chief executive officer. I think, and I agree with what Congress said. I think we should keep the way it was closer to what was in the original, bylaws.
I don't
We
know.
just need to list, our role just to list who will be the officers.
I think we
of the
did, didn't we?
corporation.
I think.
I thought-
I think we
did.
yeah, okay.
That's the
Yeah.
major point of this, and the
Right.
board appoints them, and everything else, that's, purview, falls under purview of chief,
The CEO.
CEO, yes.
And it says all other appointments shall be made by the president.
But we have this, we have a separate section by president of president's powers. Responsible of discharge of the executive administrative functions. Executive powers of the president is, hire new people and fire people. It's a part of his powers already. So I don't know, we want to talk about president's powers in officers section when we have a separate section on president and chief executive officer. If we want to emphasize that only president has the power to appoint other, employees of the corporation, we should put this into this section, under president's power, not in officers. Here, we only talk about appointments of the officers of the corporation.
But appointment section is important.
Right, absolutely, yes.
No, it is.
Yes, it's a skeleton, it's defines who are the officers of the corporation. I understand the intent was here not to make up, ADP positions maybe, and that was some, safeguard against that. I don't know if you want to read it, it's not up to me, but.
Yeah, I think we were trying to identify what powers the board has and what powers the CEO has.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's why we said the CEO, president shall appoint all other officers of the authority.
The president should not be appointing officers. President.
Other officers.
There is no other officers. These are
These are the
three
only officers.
They're
the other employees or, other staff.
Okay.
It should say employees.
I don't know
Okay.
that we ever approved the internal, where is it, the internal controls officer, did we approve that, did we? I didn't remember
And
that.
it's requirement by.
I don't think
the
we,
board
I'm
as
not
well.
sure we,
Yes, it
okay.
is.
So what we're saying, so we just take out,
We can put, we
So,
can take out internal controls office because it's mandated,
Well,
mandated.
one thing at a time. So this language, shall appoint all other employees of the authority, correct?
yeah,
Yes.
We're all in agreement on that, so
all
let's lock that in.
employees shall be appointed by the president.
And perhaps these powers for president and executive officer should go to section 4 when we talk about his responsibility, discharge of the executive administrative functions and powers of the corporation, including hiring and firing of employees other than officers. We already said this. So it's redundant to say this again. We have this addition in section 4 when we speak about president and chief executive officer powers. We already added this, that president has powers to hire and fire of employees other than officers. We already said that.
Where are you at?
So here, we already said that
Section 4?
president has these powers, and we repeated that he can only, or she, because we're already saying, right?
Okay, right, including hiring, firing the employees other than officers, yes, sure.
So there's no need to put the powers of president in officers section. There's appointment of officers, and there are like 3 or 4 of them by the board. And then we have a separate section on vice president.
So Maura,
Okay, so we could just strike this whole sentence,
what are you talking about?
Correct, yeah.
yeah.
What are you striking before you do that? What do you think?
So let me highlight, so the CEO it said, the CEO shall appoint all other officers of the authority. That's section 1. If you go down to
It's
section,
already done. That's redundant.
But yeah.
It's redundant.
yeah, we
That's
have
Right.
the same power here.
fine. Okay.
And I'm
it's
sorry,
done.
All
so
right.
it's the CEO, and there are 3 vice pres, there's a general counsel,
General counsel, CFO, and COO.
okay. So those are the 3 that the board is consulting with or has with Betty.
Technically, office of the corporation is not so much general counsel, but secretary to the board, which happens to be general counsel. The
Right.
Secretary to
It's,
the board
it's,
is.
it's usually, it can be both.
Yes, I mean, it's,
But
It's slash.
yes, slash, yes.
3 vice presidents and the
We're also,
internal controls officer.
Okay.
correct, and we also have listed the comptroller in there.
Right. But don't we have CFO, isn't the, no,
The
yeah,
controller
do we need the controller? Yeah.
Controllers and officers.
Well, I mean, we're listing it as an officer.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
list him as an officer.
Maybe we,
Because it
Is
was
the
a trend.
controller and CFO the same person?
No,
No.
it's 2 different people.
2 different people.
So does the board get involved with the controller?
I don't remember ever doing that. I remember CFO.
May I ask a
That's
question?
Maybe
Margaret.
because we
I
separate,
think
so-
this committee
Controller?
discussed that.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that works.
I don't remember us approving that, but he could have been here long before I came and
Right.
still there after I left, so.
Yes, because we had CFO originally and treasurer.
And Trish,
And
right.
in the past, it was controller who was also performing treasurer's duty. Now it's
Mhm.
CFO
Yeah,
that
that's
performs, who performs
Right.
duties of treasurer. But in other agencies and other authorities, they list controller as an officer too. So that's up to the board to decide whether we need to.
So controller is the, controller
He's the deputy comptroller.
do we have a controller?
No, we don't have a comptroller, we have a deputy
But we
comptroller.
don't need a
We do
controller?
not need a comptroller.
For our bylaws, do we need to change something?
No, I actually disagree here with Drew that every authority needs to have a controller. It's completely
But we have a
different.
deputy comptroller,
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
is this,
you know, who takes care of the books and records.
but it's not,
Mm-hmm.
control is not taking care of books and records, it's auditing powers too. It's
Yeah.
something,
Yeah, I mean, you know, he also works on the audit, but if you feel that, you know, he needs to be promoted to have a comptroller title, you know, we can certainly talk about that, but we don't need an additional person.
yeah, I
Right.
meant
Mhm. Yeah.
because
It-
of the bylaws.
But it
the
sounds
bylaw must
kind of nuts
be
to
listed.
have a
Yes,
deputy of a
exactly.
job that doesn't exist.
Correct,
So-
exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
in the past, we would have, CFO, controller, and assistant controller.
Mm,
So we have.
Out of curiosity, why do we have a deputy but not a?
That's what
Yeah,
I'm just
because-
saying. That we don't really need that
Right,
position.
Deputy to
But-
who?
So deputy to who, is
No,
that?
we have instances, not only in this department, because deputy, because controller, the last controller was Damon DeStefano, he left last year for a
Okay.
different, yes, he was a controller. At that time, Marcus was his assistant controller or something
Correct,
else.
correct.
That's how he became deputy
Yes.
controller, but we don't, and controller left.
Okay, but it's an
Gotcha.
So this
independent
is how we have
of
deputy
the
controller,
CFO.
and we don't
Yeah.
have the controller.
Correct, okay.
So the
So-
position of the controller, if I could just make a comment, the position of the controller, right, is essentially bookkeeping, which is different from like the state controller, which has auditing functions and all kinds of things like that. And I would suggest that the controller for an entity like REOC, you know, whoever that person is should be chosen by the CEO, right? The board should not be involved in telling the CEO who should be keeping the books, you know, with those functions. If the board wants to consult on a CFO, I think that's a vice presidential level position that we should be thinking about. But the controller is not necessarily that same person, and it's not necessarily at that level, in my experience.
What's your
I would
view
not
on
even-
internal control?
I wouldn't
Sorry, go
I wouldn't
ahead.
even list it. I wouldn't even list controller on this list.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
about internal controls officer, if it's something big?
I think the CFO, if
No,
the
no,
board,
it's a different.
no, I know, but I'm saying if the board approves the CFO, then the responsibility ought to be with the CFO to for the internal controls officer and the
and it can, and
yeah,
it-
controller.
yeah.
And I don't think we have to go down that
Yeah,
next
No,
level.
exactly.
internal controls officer must be appointed by the board per public authorities law.
Oh, okay.
Agencies, the chief executive officer may appoint internal controls for agency. For authorities, under public authorities law, the board must vote on this position. And controller is
On
a different.
which-
Oh,
thing.
it's, well, the law says we have,
On which position?
Internal controls office.
internal controls officer.
Internal controls officers report directly to president or CEO
Okay.
and the board of directors or audit committee.
The audit.
When did we get that position?
It was,
Internal controls officer.
we had this all the
We've
time.
always had that.
I remember Gretchen was, I remember when Gretchen changed, she was, but I didn't remember it before Gretchen. I remember when she became the, but we had someone there before.
Sylvia, was our internal controls officer too.
Okay, I
And
remember,
it was recommendation by the Office of State Controller for their audit.
For their audit,
We should have this position.
yeah, I remember
And
when we
did
approved
have
Gretchen,
this
I just
position.
didn't, I thought it was a new position, I thought, oh, I'm surprised we didn't have that.
So,
Okay.
who holds internal controls officer now? Is it you, Mary? Okay, so your internal controls officer, controller is Mr. Lilly.
Yes, and his
Yeah.
role is managing institutions' financial reporting and accounting tasks. That's,
And he is doing that.
yeah.
Okay, and does he do audit as well?
He, he does help oversee the audit.
So does he need to be appointed? Has he been appointed?
Not, you don't need to be appointed as deputy comptroller,
No,
but
but
if he
for the
was to
purposes
become
of the-
comptroller, then he would need to be appointed.
For the purposes of the bylaws,
Yeah.
Mhm.
do we need to appoint him?
In the past, we didn't, I think, we didn't appoint, Nashua, we didn't appoint Damon, right?
Right, and I
That's
remember
correct,
that.
he did.
I remember him always being there.
Yes, he was
Yeah,
just
but-
hired, yeah.
So the question remains,
Should we keep it? Maybe we'll have some of the controls to do
Is
with the
it-
controls position.
for the public authorities law, do we need to be appointing the controller?
It depends on the authority, like for example, public, technically it should be, we should have separate positions.
I think there's two questions here. I think the first question, I think that Lydia's asking is, regardless if we have a comptroller or not, is it their responsibility to, appoint a comptroller when we do get a comptroller?
Per the public authorities
If we
law.
put here controller here, then we should appoint, that it will be an officer of corporation. If we don't put controller in the bylaws, then he's not an officer or she's not an officer of the corporation, and it's just hiring, just like with Damon and prior controllers that we had.
But the position could be vacant, right? It doesn't mean.
Yes, it's
Okay, that's what I'm
vacant.
saying, it could be vacant, so I think we could just keep it in there.
Vacant, yeah. Even if we don't put it here, we can still keep position vacant and promote or hire, yeah, that's.
But I don't think we need to approve the deputy controller.
Correct,
No.
exactly.
So we
So
could
I think you could
yeah,
just leave it
okay.
in there for
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
So you're saying that public authorities law does not mandate a controller?
It depends on the authority, what, again, it.
For our case,
For our case, originally it was treasurer,
Treasurer, right.
but
Controller
controller
and
that
treasurer
we
is
added.
something.
He was performing these duties as a treasurer also, and also doing this reporting, financial reporting, and everything. That was done by annual reporting, that was done by controller, not by CFO.
and now it's being done by CFO.
I mean, together with
Yes.
controller.
Okay,
All right, we're working together, yes.
all right, so consensus to leave it?
I think with position of controller, we can confirm this, if you want to keep this, or not, I'm not sure, honestly, I don't know. That's why I got confused with all these officers positions. Clear to me, CEO, CFO, general counsel, secretary, but with controller and treasurer, I'm not sure.
So it's up to the board, I think that's what
Yeah.
Lana's saying.
So Morris? The question I
Yeah,
have
I
for
mean,
you-
this doesn't solve my own objection, right? We're still saying that we hire, right? We hire these people ultimately, right?
Mhm.
Where,
The first level management.
right,
the top
so, yeah.
Yes, the board appoints the officers.
Right.
At every state authority, I think.
Oh, Marcia said, Lana said at every state authority they do that.
I mean, not, I'm sorry, I'm taking back, I'm
Okay.
not sure. I haven't seen every authority's bylaws, I only saw.
I just look at Congress, I mean, when they want to appoint somebody to cabinet seat or whatever, the Senate, they need a majority vote.
Right,
It
but
seems to me that's not.
I know that in DPCA, for example, general counsel has a lot of powers that at RIAC is something that our CFO is doing, but in Better Park City, there's a lot of powers that belong to general counsel of the corporation. Because they also issue bonds and everything, so general counsel is involved in financial.
It's not a,
So-
it's not a private
So,
corporation.
so for example, for me, right? The mayor recommended me to the governor to be appointed by the Senate to be seated on the board. So, who was it that hired me for nothing, right?
Yeah, no, the governor appointed you, but with the, approval of the
Advisory
Senate.
consent
Was
with the
it-
Senate.
Yeah, with the,
So
yeah,
basically what's happening here is that the CEO will bring up Drew. And Drew comes up and we're like, sounds great, let's do it, done.
but I think what Morris is saying is most CEOs or most candidates won't want to have to go through they want to hire who they want to hire because they'll be working with them and we should give them that authority.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have no problem with that, honestly, if we also had the authority to fire the CEO and if we're the only people.
Oh, we
No,
certainly
no,
do.
no, we don't have the
Are they
exclusive
on
power.
paper?
That's a big difference. We've had Albany reach down, I could give you a
Sure.
laundry list of people where
Yeah.
they've said, guess what, we just fired your general
Like
counsel.
Susan
Guess what,
Rosenthal.
like Susan Rosenthal, guess
Right.
what, we just hired your
Yeah,
CFO.
it's been, I mean,
But
since I've
governor
lived here.
has the right to fire as well. There is also provision
And
in
that's-
the governance.
And that's the problem. That's the may and the shall. We should only be the right. And the commissioner had said to me, the difference is between may and shall.
Yeah.
It means you can do it, but you're not the only people who can. And that's what I think we need to change. Otherwise, there's no point in making believe we're running the place.
But whatever we put in here, it's not gonna stop Albany, like, they're gonna have that power.
Well, not if we put shall in the bylaws.
I don't see that stopping Albany from firing
Well-
our CEO if they want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right now, I think it's, is it the governor's, at the pleasure of the governor?
Yeah.
No, the board is at the pleasure of the governor. There's
And-
nothing in
and
the law.
officers At the pleasure of the board.
Where does it say that?
It says that the officers serve at the pleasure of the board. It was in the original bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want, I'm saying if they're in our bylaws, we can change our
Right, right,
bylaws.
we
The
change.
question is, when they decide to do it anyway, what's
Mhm.
gonna be, stand up legally? I mean, the commissioner literally said to me, it's the may and the shall. If it said shall in there, then we couldn't do that. But it says may, so we can. If you got a problem, change your bylaws.
So that's what we want to do, we want to
And
change
that's
our
what-
bylaws.
We wanted to do.
And I think you did. It says shall.
Yeah,
But it hasn't been approved.
it hasn't been approved yet.
No, of course, I know.
Yeah. So, Mark, do you see the rationale behind what we're trying to do?
Yeah, I do. I suppose these are countervailing opinions, right? You know, I think we're solving for different problems, right? What I'm trying to solve for is just, you know, the idea that anybody who's going to run an organization should have the ability to choose their staff. And what I'm hearing, there's another perspective that, you know, the board wants to exert its management, in certain situations that rise to that, to some level. And to some extent, those two concepts can't happen simultaneously, right? So I think it comes down to, what we think the role of the board is. And, my assertion is that we're not tasked with the responsibility of operations. And so we need to make sure that operating decisions, including who the VP should be left to the CEO, who is tasked with operating decisions. I understand the interest in wanting to, exert oversight, but that can get tricky if it goes too far towards operations, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Of course.
That's it.
Right? And
I
I
don't
don't think
think
it
any
should go.
volunteer here wants to be running operations,
Right.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's about making sure it's a competent, efficient group that,
I would truly be happy
Professional.
if it was just the CEO that,
Yeah.
and making sure if the CEO wasn't doing what he was responsible to do, that we had the authority to take an action. But failing that, I'm okay with approving the first level, the top level of management. But I understand Maurice's point. If I were a
Yeah,
CEO,
yeah,
I
and-
wouldn't want people
and
telling
frankly,
me who's
it's
gonna work for
still
me.
city
but-
land, state, fiduciary responsibility, like, I get that part of it too.
Mhm.
You know, that, it's hard to ask the governor to give
And
up a
Go
responsibility
back to
or
what,
authority here.
what corporation can't
Mhm.
fire the CEO?
Yeah. Yeah.
The board can't fire the CEO. Every corporation I know, the board can fire the CEO.
Yeah, the board, absolutely, that's their
Yeah.
whole
That's the
purpose,
main
Exactly.
to
And that's-
hire and fire
That's
the CEO.
right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
And-
But then also, keeping that going, I
Yeah.
mean, you wouldn't see a board of directors of a corporation.
Going down to the
Yeah,
next
going
level,
down to
right?
the next level.
Because they
meaning-
wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
kind of did because we couldn't do it with the Susan Rosenthal example. And
Mhm.
so, okay, let's at least get guys in there that we think are going to be capable.
Mhm.
But you didn't have that authority anyway, right? I mean, the board was never involved with hiring or meeting people who were being hired for
We met
general
them, but it was
counsel
pretty
or-
much a done deal by the time we met them.
Yeah.
It was kind of, okay, the appointments office is sending this person. You don't need a person, okay, so it was this
Okay.
person or forget it. We didn't have like 3 candidates. That was I used to
Yeah,
say,
no,
my exact
right.
quotes were, we don't buy a staple here without
Right.
3 bids. How can we hire
Yeah.
a CFO without 3 candidates? We just
Yeah.
got told, here's the guy,
Mhm.
approve it or don't.
Mhm.
So you either live without a CFO, or you approve the person that the governor sent you.
Right. No, I mean, it's a very
Yeah,
important point.
so it's basically made for a board that was just a rubber stamp board.
Yeah.
And we don't want a rubber stamp board because that's not a fiduciary, we're not fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility, we're not fulfilling our oversight responsibility. And our oversight responsibility is to make sure that the officers there are running an efficient organization. And when we see evidence to the contrary, then we need to be able to say something and take corrective action.
And it-
Yeah, but like, you have to be careful about that, because again, what we're seeing, not to get into any attorney-client privilege, but what you're seeing from a limitation of liability perspective is, if a board of directors is doing the day-to-day operations,
But
and
we
that.
don't want to do the.
Well, that's, what you just said, exerting operational authority, like, that's.
No, exerting the ability to say, this person is not doing the job that needs to be done, and we need to replace this person to do the job. A competent person needs to get into the
Right.
position to do the job that needs to be done. Whether or not that's CEO, whether or not that's CFO, whether that's COO, or general counsel.
But I understand where Conway's coming
Yeah.
from. We had a general counsel that was fired. In our depositions, we sat there with his lawyer saying, hey, you didn't fire this guy. Why didn't you fire? Why was somebody else able to do that? You hired him. Why didn't you fire him? And, because Albany did, so once we take on the responsibility of saying we're hiring him, then we get stuck with, hey, then if he sues later, it's our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very.
Well, technically, you're acting in capacity as REAC board member, so it's REAC who's, on the hook at the end of the day.
Not when you get
So-
sued as individuals.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
it
what
would
happened.
still fall back onto
Yeah.
REAC and their insurance policies.
But it's true, once you assume the responsibility of hiring, then you're responsible for what happens to that person in the lawsuit.
And I go back
And
to,
if you don't
this
have-
is a public benefit corporation, these are our public servants, these are state employees. I mean, it does make it a little bit different than your, being a Disney CEO or a Disney shareholder or a board member.
Mhm.
It's a whole different animal.
Because we have to represent the public. We have to represent, oversight for public, it's a public benefit corporation. The organization benefits the public. And if it does not benefit the public, we're in trouble. Or the organization is in trouble.
It's complicated. I have not been on this board. I don't know all that you've had with your executive stuff and all that goes on over the years. I know that just as a resident, that it's not a recent development with all of these problems. And,
I don't know that we'll ever, like Conway said, we're never gonna be able to stop the governor's office from calling and saying, hey, you're
right,
fired.
no.
But I think we ought to at least take the stand in our bylaws that we think we should be the only ones to fire the person, because we're the ones who see them day to day, and we see what kind of job they're doing or not doing. And if we think they're doing a good job, you shouldn't be able to reach down and fire them, because then we're gonna get sued for firing them the wrong way, and we didn't have anything to do with it. And there's a responsibility that comes with that, I get it, but I think we signed up for it.
Okay,
I think you guys signed up for it, I haven't signed up for it anymore.
so Conway, what do you think?
Hmm.
Megan, what do you think? Mark, what do you think? Glenn, please.
So this is really the operative sentence we're debating here, like whether or not to keep that. So the first part of the appointment, the officers are as follows, and we just say who the officers are.
Right.
No controversy on that.
Right.
But here we're saying that they're only appointed by us. No controversy on the CEO. I don't think there's any controversy on the three. And I missed what you were saying earlier in terms of what's required in terms of controller and internal controls officer.
Controller, because in our case, in our original bylaws, the treasurer was performing, one of his functions was to control financials. So that's why our controller technically was a treasurer, but even though he was named treasurer here. So I wasn't sure whether should we keep treasurer, is treasurer in the new CFO, or we still want treasurer as control, or controller as treasurer. This is, I don't know how you decide on that. And also, internal controls officer, this person shall be appointed by the board by law, by public authorities law. You don't have to even put in policy some legal requirement that we have to comply with the appointment of this position. We are not, and I'm not sure if internal controls, it's officer, actually, internal controls officer, but it is considered the office of preparation for the purposes of the bylaw. These three positions, CEO, COO, CFO, and general counsel, not CEO, I'm sorry, CFO, COO, and general counsel are historically were vice presidents of the corporation. At a certain point, we have also positions of AVP, and I think this is why you put that the AVP should be appointed by
The CEO.
Yeah, this, I think it's up to CEO. Other than these 3-4 officers here, who are also vice presidents, in addition to president, that should be it. Appointed by the board and shall be, or maybe, the reason I think we have the word maybe, because when we say shall be removed by the board means that
They are the ones who can do it, yes.
But I think if the board appoints them, they may remove them if they feel they.
Yeah, but then if you say may, other people may also. But if you say shall, apparently legally, shall means only that person. It's not it's exclusive to the board. That's the only person that can remove them. But when you say may, that says the board can, but other people can too. And that's what we were told.
I thought that.
I don't know.
Did Valerie Park say anything on it?
About, well, the authority has the authority there.
About removal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't hear anything about it's absolutely, as you look at the battery park. I mean, and remember, they are operating at a tremendous surplus. They rent to Goldman Sachs as one of their renters. They're not fighting for people to be renting on Main Street. They have, what is that fancy mall? That's part of Barry Park.
Brookfield, yes.
Equivalent in terms of, we are operating at a tremendous surplus. We, I think, there's not gonna be new development.
And that's,
here
you have
for a
all
while.
types of financing
And
where.
this is a great concern for people, and that's why oversight is very critical. So, the president of the authority shall be appointed by the members and may be removed either with or without cause at any time by action of the members.
By action of the members.
The president shall appoint and remove either with or without cause all other officers of the authority except for the general counsel, the chief operating officer, and the treasurer, financial officer, all of whom shall be appointed and removed either with or without cause by the president in consultation with the members. So they are just doing what Margie suggested, in that the board can remove the president, and then even the other executive team, the president can remove in consultation with the board.
With the board.
I mean, consultation is, that's a nice diplomatic approach.
Unfortunately.
I know, what a meeting for you to
I envy you.
No, it's okay, I plan to attend plenty more.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
For punishment.
Sent out.
Do we have your contact?
Yeah, do we have your contact? Can we get it? Absolutely, I actually have some business cards. Fantastic, thank you very much. That's perfect. I try not to leave home without any of them. I don't intend to stop around and pass business cards out. However, I had every intention of attending this meeting. Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much. Uh-oh, wrong card. Here.
I have, okay, that's okay, as long as they've got it, we're good. So where does this leave us?
I have.
Sorry, thank you.
I am happy to comply with Barry Park today as a compromise. But
I got it, thank you.
I'm not sure that
thank you.
I'm as far,
Thank you so much.
as far as Morrison's perspective. So I think we
I
should
mean,
maintain the
I
power.
totally get Morris's perspective. In a
Absolutely.
well-functioning corporation,
Yeah,
the board would never reach down to do this.
yeah.
But they definitely would hire and fire the CEO, and that's the part that's missing for us, and that's why we tend to reach down, because we know that's gonna keep happening.
So, what do you think, Connie?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, no question on the CEO. It's just a matter of the other officers. Should the board be involved in hiring and firing? I'm probably 55-45 no to yes, but, I could see going either way on this one.
Megan, what do you think? Are you there, Megan?
Megan?
I'm sorry,
You may allow.
just a question. Someone keeps shuffling paper over the mic, so I can't always hear if you're talking to me, sorry. What was the question?
So, the Morris has a perspective that's a little more extreme than I'm comfortable with. A lot of people here, can get on board. I'm not quite sure if I can get on board. But what's your perspective?
I mean, I'm not sure which or what example Audrey was reading before, because I missed the beginning of it, for audio issues, but, I think we should research this better.
Wait, what did you say, sorry?
She said to research it better.
Well, we were just reading from the bylaws of Battery Park City, the appointment section.
That's one, our hundreds of public benefit corporations across the state, besides that, they are all following the same public authority law and have bylaws as well. So it's just for consistency and best practices purposes, we should see what other entities are doing and maybe table this one.
That's what we've
And so we have further.
Others, in
Yeah,
addition to Battery
okay,
Park
yeah,
City.
sure, that
Okay,
makes
we can
sense.
look at some others.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, this one basically says, president, board appoints the president, CEO hires and fires everybody else, except if it's gonna involve the general counsel, COO, or CFO, the CEO has to do that in consultation with the board.
But it's technically what's happening at RIA, because COO actually selects the people with appointment officers and then go to the board. That's consultation with the board, when the board approves it.
What do you think, Megan?
I think she thinks we ought to look at what other,
Yeah.
I don't,
Do you have
Not
suggestions
comfortable
of
with
what other public benefit we should look at?
The
I mean,
closest
there's
to
lots
us
of
is better.
examples. Okay, you could look at DASNY, you could, like, EFC, there's plenty.
Okay.
I mean, there are hundreds in the
We'll
state,
drop
but
a
I'm
comment.
trying to think of others that are like Roosevelt Island and Battery Park City, and that they're, you know, serving.
think
There
we're
might be
the only ones.
villages on Long Island or Westchester.
Hudson River,
Which ones?
Hudson River.
Not that are,
Okay.
not that are public benefit operations, no.
Because DASNY is, you know, I mean, I
Yeah.
get it, but it's a different, like, I know
there are a
the
lot of public
MTA
authorities.
is a
Yeah.
public benefit. I
Right.
mean, we could-
Following statute and the best practices of the ABO. And that's where I think we also need to be looking, not just necessarily another entity that operates similar to Roosevelt Island. You just need to explore what the other verbiage is that's out there.
Yeah.
Well, when I went through my training way back when, they were stunned that we didn't hire and fire a CEO, that Albany reached down and hired and fired it without the board doing it. They said that was not the right way to work, and the three of us that were there from REAC said, no, that is the way it works, and they said, no, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Lydia,
So
what
what
was
do
the
we do?
feedback from the AEO and open
Did you guys
governance?
go through
Did
classes?
Did you, I mean, but did you share with them
We did.
one iteration of this? I don't know.
Yeah,
Long
went
ago
through
it
a
was.
few iterations.
Yeah, I might have been, it might have
Which
been.
went through the ABO, didn't it?
Yes.
Mhm.
And they
ABO
approved it, right?
Yes, but they don't look, every authority, we are all part of public authorities, but we're under different sections, different titles. We are Title 35. DASNY, for example, I am not sure if it's applicable to us,
I
because they
wouldn't.
have a different structure as well.
Daphne is.
Is chair, by the way, chair of the board has a lot of powers at
Yeah.
DASNY, and they call meetings.
Mhm.
Only the chair of the board call meetings, enforce bylaws, preside, coordinate the work of the board committees. So if you want to look at they have vice chair, they have secretary, they have assistant
Okay.
secretary.
Yeah, we'll look into
Let's
things,
get
yeah.
to-
Mhm.
Let's get to
But
this
it-
particular
Mhm.
subject, okay? What do they say about, board appointees?
President, yes. Board appointed is president of the corporation shall be oversight by the board, be responsible for the general supervision, efficient administration, operation, and activities of the corporation, and exercise such other powers and perform such other duties.
No,
as the
before
board-
that.
But they don't have the similar structures
they-
at all. They have first vice president, they have second vice president.
It's I mean,
It's
Daphne is,
different.
it's all over,
Yeah.
dormitory, I mean, it's,
Yes,
there's no,
We are so
It's
unique.
not
The
comparable.
closest to us is Battery Park City because they also deal with the community.
Okay.
And we are the only
Well,
authority in the state of New York where the board members are actually, public board members are residents of this house. We don't have the same equivalent anywhere.
So we're not an apples to apples comparison, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
so we'll have to research what, and I will check with Liz, because she helps to, see the board members, so I know she told me there are hundreds of, public benefits.
But the closest to us in nature is Battery Park City and Hudson River Park Trust probably.
Okay, so I will check with Hudson River.
All right. So can we just put it down, research?
Yeah.
All right, table for research. Okay, so we have like a
By the
page
way,
and
Oh.
a half,
Emily.
and it is after 6. What do we want to do? Do you want to keep on going, or I know people have to leave, or what do you?
That's actually.
Conway, you and I, it's contingent on you and me.
Okay.
Do you wanna march through this, or do you wanna schedule another meeting?
How much more we got here?
We've got a page and a half.
Oof. Morris was busy.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you, Laura.
Yes,
Yeah.
good, very thoughtful, really, no, it is, it's very thoughtful.
Yeah, we may wanna call another meeting on this one.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
all right, so we have people that have to be places, and so
yeah,
we
that's
will
fine.
cut it off, and we will schedule another meeting. Do we have, can I just?
Lydia,
we
can I-
get the-
Lydia, do you
Yeah.
mind if I can just real quick? I just wanted to say that when you guys scheduled this meeting basically to discuss my comments, I blushed a little bit. You know, I it's a little uncomfortable for you know, my comments to be sort of at the center of something like this, but I really appreciate that you all you know, took my comments in the spirit that they were intended, and the deliberations of this committee were very thoughtful today. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time and for your thoughtfulness.
You're welcome. Your feedback's very important. I take it very seriously.
Good feedback, yeah, excellent feedback.
Okay, so would you mind if I just, got availability instead of having to email back and forth?
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Yeah, so,
Oh, good, I missed. Did we decide on anything?
we're gonna pause.
Oh, okay, good, good,
So
good,
you
good, 'cause
guys-
I was just gonna,
We need to leave,
Yeah, I need
but
to
what I
know.
wanna do is schedule the next meeting.
Okay.
So the next meeting, do you wanna do it before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving? There's the question. So it looks like we're not gonna finish this in time to give this to outside counsel for a month. I was hoping to give this to outside counsel for a month so that we can have it for the board
We
in
don't have to
December.
finish it to give it to outside counsel, because whatever we put there might not be even accepted by the outside. We might have
Yeah,
different, there's no need for us, we have the comments from everyone, and
Uh-huh.
we will send all the comments to the firm.
Yeah, you could send this draft that we have and Morris's comments and say, hey, we want to get this to you so you can start working on it.
okay, so question, is next week possible for anybody? And if next week is possible, when?
Is this 4 o'clock time, what you guys want to
We
do?
have the special board meeting next week.
On next Tuesday, we have a special board meeting, so we could theoretically do it before then, or wait.
I'm good
do
next
you work
Thursday,
from
but that's
home
it.
then?
Wednesday, Friday, but I can, Zoom in or Zoom in.
So, Margie,
I'm only good Thursday next
you're only
week.
good Thursday?
Yep.
Conley?
I can't do Thursday, but I can, Tuesday?
Tuesday's board meeting.
Oh, that's the board meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We're already doing Tuesday.
Yeah.
The following week, I can do
You want to do
Wednesday of the following week.
is
Oh, Wednesday,
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
week.
week.
Yeah,
And Thanksgiving week, but,
Yeah, so, I mean, that Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, I'm
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
any of those days.
Do you
I'm
want to
good
do Monday,
Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving?
Maybe not Wednesday, because people probably want to travel.
Monday, I'm actually working from home, so that's.
Do you want to do Monday? We can do Monday.
Monday the 25th,
Monday the 25th?
could work.
Monday the 25th, I've got a 6 o'clock thing in the city. Tuesday, I'm good.
Tuesday?
Tuesdays works.
Megan? Megan?
Sure.
Okay, do you want to do it at
Yeah.
4 o'clock? 5?
4 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
Yeah, that's the question, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
I
Or do
prefer
you-
Yeah,
four.
well, I will have to, whatever.
Are you available?
Yeah, I'll have to work it out in the office, but I can.
Can you make it? Okay.
4 o'clock Tuesday,
4
right?
o'clock Tuesday, is that all right?
Yep.
Conway, Megan,
4 o'clock, Tuesday the 26th, all right.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, good, thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it is.
Do you wanna call the
And
meeting?
so,
The meeting?
yeah, so I'm going to, okay.
Adjourn.
Adjourn the meeting, all in favor? All opposed? Here we go, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna turn this off.
I'm not seeing before Thanksgiving, so.